All right, everybody, what is going on? What is going on? I know I owe you guys a late point. That's my mistake. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me a second here. Give me a second. Hold on a second. Yeah, we got one. We got one. No, it's 1 point. It's 1 point. It's 1 point. Just keep in mind, anytime you guys have the stream start, it's, I guess, slightly delayed depending on where your location is. Alright. But you guys get 1 point. Here we go. Hold on. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Alright. 67. There we go. Do we gotta do... I swear every time we've done this, where you guys demand proof, we do it, and I'm always proven correct, alright? So I've been live for 1 minute and 20 seconds, right? 1 minute and 20 seconds. So we're gonna see at what when it turns 34, right? I guess that's the cutoff. 6, 7. Hold on. We got to do this song and dance. This is the number that we go by. We go by this number. And right now we're at 6, 7. It's just the way it is. All right. Do I make it? All right. Live for over 2 minutes. Oh, shit. Actually, that was a photo finish. Did I make it? That one was a photo finish. I actually might not have made it that time. Okay, we really got to watch. Hold on. We really got to watch this. All right. Did I make it or not make it? All right, so let's see. So we see if this time adds up to that time. We got to see which one comes first. I did not feed them. Sorry. Thanks, baby. All right. Okay. Thanks. Out. Kissy, out. Good girl. Out. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Oh shit, are we gonna miss the window? Hold on. 1 second. This is time sensitive. Okay. 57, 58, 59. Oh, I do it. Okay, it said literally. I think it's at the minute mark. I think this is at the minute mark. This is really close. All right. Okay. Huh? Yeah. Okay. I don't know about that one. Did I lose? What was correct? Shit. Run us our 2 points. All right, we're going to run this one more time. We're now wasting about 4 minutes of stream figuring this out. But we're going to watch this very, very closely. All right? Very closely. Let's see. Oh, because I'm covering part of the screen, right? So let me move that too. Oh, no, wait. It's coming up. Okay, let's see. 350 something. Oh, I think I lose. I think it's a tie. I think it might be a tie. Shit. I think I lose. All right. Well, I'll give you guys the point. I felt like I had it. All right. You guys get 2 points. That's the first and only time that you guys have been correct on that. I'll say the first and only time, but first time for everything. All right. Anyway. Aside from that, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Tom, thanks a lot for the long time support, man. Hi, Morge. I'd appreciate if you looked at my recent tweet. It's a tiny theory that I think you'd like. BTW switch the Gachikuta manga, read Kaiji. I'm not following up on Gachikuta. That's just not my series. Tom, we can look at a tweet of yours real quick. We can take a quick look at a tweet of yours. Shit. No shit, you lost. I normally win those. Fuck a tie, we win. I'm giving you guys the tie. That's the narrative that I'm sticking to. It's a tie, and as a gentleman, I'm giving it to y'all. All right. All right. Tom on Twitter said, I have a small theory to add onto the idea of Usopp versus killing him. Their fight takes place near the children. They say Usopp being brave and fighting while completely outclassed. Consequently, they overcome their fears and the nightmare creatures disappear. Oh, that's an interesting idea. If you stop being afraid, the nightmare creatures go away. That's a very interesting idea. Something extra that would be cool. The children are afraid, but Usopp tells them not to worry because he's the world famous superhero Sniper King. Lol. That would be cool. I like that idea. That's a nice idea. Damn. Talhat, thanks a lot for being a Yonko tier member for 20 months. Been interesting seeing the shift in community expectations for Usopp going from Elbaf will be his arc akin to Sanji Whole Cake Island to he will get a moment. I think he'll get a big moment, but yeah, I can't see it being his arc anymore. It's kind of insane that Sanji, like, out of the blue, we just found, I don't think we even knew that an island called Whole Cake Island existed prior to the Whole Cake Island arc, like in Zoe. And then out of the blue, like literally no setup whatsoever, Sanji just gets this full arc dedicated to focusing on him. Whereas with Wano and Elbaf storylines where readers anticipated it being Zoro's arc or Usopp's arc, especially with Usopp and Elbaf, it just turned out to, they got significant moments, but certainly not an arc that you would say is their arc akin to Sanji and Whole Cake. Do we have enough points for stuff? Yeah, we can look. You definitely have enough points for some stuff. Here, take a look. Let's browse. All right. Some of these are not. I forgot what some of these look like. Because for so long, people were just trying to get to which has now been spent on. People were trying to get to the 150.1 to spend on Wano. And then once we hit that, now none of these other ones seem as bad. Yeah, these are our options. Everything from here down. Yeah, everything from here down. So do we want to spend on something? First, let me throw it to you guys if you want to spend on something. Oh, at the end of last stream, I did miss a super, so let me catch that. Hold on. Let me do this poll real quick. Do we want to spend on points? Can I get a Jinbei appreciation video added to the list? No, unfortunately not. All right, let me take a look at, last time supers. All right, hold on. Hold on a second, y'all. The hell? Where is... the fuck? Give me a sec. Oh, yeah, okay. Tabs move around and I forget where things are. Okay, cool. All right, so... what the hell? What the fuck? Hold on. Why is this not popping up here? What the fuck? The last message I have is from Dick So Small. This is not correct. Give me a second. Maybe I can just go back to the overall chat of the... Maybe this super didn't even register. Give me a second. So it would have been in live last time. 1172 discussion. Okay, let me go to the stream. Let me go to the stream. We're gonna do it manually. And just see the last chat. All right, here we go. Okay, people do not want to spend the points. I'm curious to see what people want to spend the points on this time around. Like these two letters. Hold on. Hold on a second, y'all. Okay. We're almost there. The fuck? Give me a second, y'all. No. What the fuck? Okay. The last super does not show up either in the tab that supers are. Does somebody remember where? This is what I got. Hold on. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing for the record. In my, what the fuck? This is what I'm seeing. I know there was a super there, but I don't see, before the stream ends, I don't see anything. The stream ends right about here. This is the last record of chats that I've got. Oh, no, we got it. Okay. Cinnamon. All right, we found it. Okay, Cinnamon 27, thanks for the 5. Middle of the mural looks like the beast on Hadruden's flag. Probably Loki's fruit. Also, a lot of allusions between Luffy and Hadruden through the arc. Hadruden, the beast on Hadruden's flag? Let's take a look. The beast on Hadruden's flag. Okay. One Piece. Hadruden. New Giant Warrior Pirates. New Giant Warrior Pirates. That's an interesting catch if you're right about this. I don't know about this, though. If this is the flag, this just seems like a standard flag to me. You know? The beast on there, I don't know. That just seems like, that seems similar. It's interesting it does have the horns like ancient giants do, but a lot of the giants have the horns on their helmet. I think it's interesting. So, you know what's interesting? Like, obviously Oda's drawing from Viking inspiration with the horns and everything like that. But it's cool that in the One Piece universe, the ancient giant race used to have actual horns. So I wonder if in One Piece, obviously we know the meta reason that Oda as an author came up with the idea of the Viking horns is because of the Vikings. I think it'd be cool if in One Piece it was canonical that like all giants used to have horns, and then eventually the ancient giants, that particular breed of giant died out over time, and so giants still recreate that visual by having horns on their helmets. I don't know. I'm hitting the Bollywood. That's not in the thing. Take us back to middle and high school times. Play a game of Kahoot. What's Kahoot? Kahoot. I'll play Kahoot, but I don't know what it is. Kahoot. How do I play Kahoot? I'm down to play Kahoot, but what do I... It says game pin. How do I enter a game pin? That just looks like a generic ancient giant lol. Yeah, I would agree. One Piece theme. Discover. How do I look for One Piece? You have to create a quiz and other people can join? Morge is a boomer. He didn't play this in school. I was born in 1995. I'm not a boomer. I'm almost Gen Z, but thankfully I'm not, because y'all are dumb and play shit like Kahoot. What do I do? I want to play Kahoot, even though it's stupid. Do a Kahoot and my firstborn is yours. I'm down to do a Kahoot. I don't know how to fucking play this shit though. What is this? You know what? My webcam is blocking this one. so I can't really see it. Hold on. Hold on. Sign up for free? I don't want to sign up though. Okay, discover the best content, learn, present. So we can all play in a game? That'd be kind of fun. The hidden life of Rosa Parks. These are the most popular Kahoots? No disrespect to Rosa Parks, but who's queuing up being like, today I want to play a Kahoot about that? I don't understand. I could understand Lego or Disney being a top Kahoot. All right. Let's find out. We'll get to One Piece, but first I just want to see what the fuck's Kahootopia? You all knew about this shit? What does this even mean? What is this? Is this free? I feel like this. Why does it say free so much? That seems to imply that some of this is paid. Who would pay to do this? I'm upset that Cars is. Okay, yeah, I'm down. I like Lion King. Okay, questions. Okay, so how do I play? How do I play this? How do I play this game? You have to subscribe? It said it was free. I don't understand what you guys are trying to make me do here. Oh, this stuff doesn't say free. It says access pass. All right, let's do a free Kahoot. I don't know Zootopia 2. I know Zootopia 1, though. I saw that one. Hold on. Elio? I thought no one watched that one. Let's do this. I know Mickey Mouse. Find the gifts. Okay, be sure to tap the image. Cookies are fun gifts to give someone. Which cookies are meant to show love? Hint, they are heart-shaped. So I can... What? It's these ones. This. Did I get it? I don't understand. Flowers are a great gift. Which hint they're red? Okay. But am I getting it? I don't get it. How am I... What's the... I don't know if I'm getting the answers. Am I playing? Play solo. Okay. All right. Classic mode. This is a lot of steps. Okay. Okay, I'm doing pretty good. Oh, shit. All right, I'm doing pretty good. I already knew the answer to that one. I'm doing... What? Who's Sir Chuck? Which... What? This one. Why does this Kahoot exist? What's the point of this quiz? Okay, this is too much. This is too complicated. All right, so how would I find a One Piece Kahoot? Julian Reed, thanks to the two. The Rosa Parks one is at the top because of Black History Month, lol. Interesting. That makes sense. That's fair. Okay, how do I find One Piece Kahoots? What age do you all play Kahoots? Get off Kahoot for now. I'll explain in a Twitter DM. Behenort says, if we ever force you to play a video game via points, would we do a tournament on stream? Yeah, maybe. I'm not good at most games. These are corporate quizzes, not the actual fun ones made by other people. Okay, well, I don't know how to find the fun ones. Look at Twitter. All right, Tom. Let's see. Let's see what you're trying to make me do. This is what Kahoot is. Teachers mainly... Tom is explaining what Kahoot is. Teachers mainly use Kahoot. It's a game where a question appears on screen with 4 possible answers. The teacher projects it on the screen/TV while the students enter the game on the blah, blah, blah. Streamers can use it because they can just stream the main screen. People like doing with questions based on their manga, video game, show, etc. After each question, it shows everyone's points, and at the end, it shows the leaderboard and top 3 podium. Wait, so I compete with everybody online at the same time? What? That's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, that could be cool. Okay, I like that. Yeah, that's fun. Why didn't you guys explain that? Okay. I could play some Kahoot. I just don't know. How do I find... Help me navigate to One Piece here. Discover. Discover. What are we discovering? Also, let's get the stream lights up to 50 real quick, because we just figured out Kahoot. How do I... Okay, what, 13? Played Kahoot. You figure out the technology later. More Unleashed content going to waste here? Yeah. Would you have read it if we did explain it? Yes. I always read what you guys send me. Okay, so what is... What... How do I find YouTube? Not YouTube. Not YouTube. The other one. One Piece. How do I find One Piece? Discover. It's got to be under Discover, but it's not. Where's the search function? How's there no search function here? Disney. This is for normies. This is what you guys did in middle school, right? Just search One Piece Kahoot on Google? Why can't I search it on Kahoot itself? All right, fine. One Piece Kahoot. Okay. So I do host live, display on big screen. I gotta make an account. I could make an account for you guys. For you guys I can make. Wait, who wants to play Kahoot or who wants to move on with the stream topic? Let's do that poll first. We can do Kahoot another day. Who wants to play Kahoot? Okay, wait. Kahoot or do stream topic? Mr. Raindrop Falling says, Morge, you aren't that old, but sometimes you really radiate Oji-san energy. I'm not that old. That's all I heard. But I think part of it is because... this is tight. We can do Kahoot another time. I just need to understand how it works. And then, so you're telling me that then I could, like, compete with you guys on some One Piece trivia or something like that? Because that'd be fun. That would be fun. We can play Kahoot another day so we understand it more. Kahoot could be its own stream, to be honest. All right. Tom says I can make good One Piece Kahoots for a later stream. That would be appreciated, but I mean, if some One Piece Kahoots exist, then we could just use that, right? All right. We're going to do the stream topic, but it's good to know that Kahoot exists as a thing. I'm going to jot this down as a future stream topic real quick. Hold on. Good to know. Kahoot. So if I'm right, it would allow me to compete with you guys. Is that correct? And then we could do rewards or something like that, right? That could be fun. Like if I lose 15 Kahoots in a row, then the Bollywood dance or something like that. Yeah, I'll do a dedicated Kahoot stream. But I would like to do one where I can compete with you guys, or is it just you guys all competing amongst each other? Competing or just hosting? Okay. Does anybody know things where I could compete with you guys? Because that'd be fun. I feel like I should know the answer to that question as I'm the streamer, but, you know, you guys know how I don't know things. Tom says, I'm looking at public One Piece ones right now, and they all seem to be either shit or in French, though. Thomas Clown says, remember the whole idea was me, just FYI. Everybody said thanks to Thomas Clown. Thomas Clown, sorry. I think it's just us. Well, I mean, you guys could enjoy playing Kahoot, I'm sure. All right, let's get into the stream topic. Right? Because that's really what matters at the end of the day. Hold on a second here. Do we want to do an Excel sheet or do we want to do... I kind of want to do an Excel sheet for this one. I think this one's going to be an Excel sheet. I think we're doing an Excel sheet for this. Not whimsical. So let me break out an Excel sheet real quick. Oh, also huge news. I don't know if it matters to you guys, but it matters to me. Um, I have a new phone. I finally upgraded my phone. So I've had for a long time a Galaxy, but an old Galaxy, not like a new Galaxy. A Samsung Galaxy. You guys want to guess how far back my Galaxy goes? Let me give it a spoiler. So I just picked up a Galaxy S25. So I'm happy that I have that. Although it's a little bit too new to me. I think they mess with some user interface stuff that they didn't need to, but that's just my opinion. Um, the previous version of Galaxy I had, Samsung Galaxy, you are a boomer. It's a new Samsung Galaxy. Well, I don't know the exact year that I got it. I just wanted to tell you guys the the model. So the current Galaxy I have, I just picked up, is an S25. My understanding that they told me at the store is that this is the newest that it gets. The previous one that I had was an S8, a Samsung Galaxy S8. So my mind was, of course, blown when I realized that they've gone all the way from 8 to 25. Because that just seems like a remarkable amount of innovation. And I was just like, how much could have changed in that period of time? The amount that's changed is not that much. They just made it worse, in my opinion. But it just doesn't make sense to me because it's not like it's not like I haven't had a new it's not like it's been 17 years since I got a new phone, right? But that's why it's so shocking to me that how do you go from 8 to 25 so fast, right? Like that's they skipped 11 to 20. Okay, they skipped 11 to 20. Okay, so that's why. That's why. Because I was just like, how is it possible that I got an S8, but now they're already at S25? It hasn't been like that long, you know? Anyway, the only reason I got my new phone is because apps slowly started to stop working on the S8. Mind you, not because anything was wrong with my phone. In fact, I was told that my phone was in great condition when I turned it in. There's no cracks, nothing. Okay? I take good care of my phones. The problem was that these fucked up people at these app developers or whatever, they at a certain point make their apps stop working for phones that are certain like a certain level of outdated. Okay? So, for example, Slack. I had Slack on my phone, and then this year, Slack just stopped working on my phone. Not because my phone stopped working, but because the creators of Slack were just like, we just don't want to make it compatible anymore with people who have a phone that's this many years old. That's fucking mind blowing because the app's already working on my phone. It's fine. Like, it's okay. And they're just like, the newest update, it just doesn't work for your phone. Google Maps. Google Maps stopped working for a while. Then it eventually did start working again, but I had to switch to Waze for a little bit, which is absolute shit. There's just one by one, it started telling me that certain apps I just wasn't allowed to use on my phone anymore. Apps that I'd been happily using for a while. So I just had to complain. This is what they do to try and just squeeze you to make you buy more things over time. Anyway. Yeah, there's no innovation in the phone industry. The only new thing that's part of this is like Google Gemini is now part of this, and I didn't ask for that. There's no innovation. There's nothing that new about this phone other than like the screen feels a little fancier, like the way things moved. Okay, they skipped 11 to 19. All right. Okay, so I only skipped 9 generations. That's not that bad. YouTube's trying to get rid of background play again. What's background play? All right. All right. Give me a second here as I arrange the stream for you. Tip to you, thanks for the 2 more. I have an S22 for 3.5 years and no problems. Yeah, well, that's an S22. I had an S8. And they just decided at a certain point that it's time for the S8 people to upgrade or some shit. I genuinely don't think phones really need to upgrade. Like, I truly feel like there's not that much more that phones need. Like, I'm going to be absolutely shocked if there's that much more that my S25 is going to be able to do than my S8 could do. I feel like just the fact that, you know what I mean? Like, when smartphones first started coming out, yeah, that was revolutionary. That was a big jump from, Blackberries to smartphones, whatever the fuck that happened, right? Since then, I don't think there's been a big jump, ever. I think it's all just been roughly the same and roughly the same amount of functionality, in my opinion. Using YouTube on other apps. What does that mean? Using YouTube on other apps? Oh, I missed this. Joyboy SGLS. Thanks for being a Pirate King team member for 21 months. First of all, let me shout out the Pirate King podcast submissions for the month are up. So definitely go in and get your Pirate King podcast submission in for the month. I will be recording it soon. So yeah, Pirate King podcast submissions just went up. For those of you who don't know, the Pirate King podcast is the most in-depth podcast that I do. It is a once a month, hour-and-a-half long podcast usually, where every Pirate King member submits any questions that they have about One Piece, other anime, manga, TV, movies, video games, real life, whatever you want to ask about. You can ask anything with, privacy limits, of course. And I answer every single Pirate King member's question as in-depth as possible, and that is really the format where I just do the most in-depth discussion about the things that people are asking. So if you're interested, definitely go check it out, get your submission in, and you get access to all the other Pirate King podcasts. I think we've got like 30-something at this point. Yo Morge, Loki is... So Joyboy SGLS says, Yo Morge, Loki is becoming one of my favorite characters, and it seems like he's primed for a huge role in the final war. Do you think it's possible he fights Emu while Luffy fights Blackbeard? So first of all, thanks for the long time support again, for 21 months. And two, I don't think it's set up that, like, Loki is going to be the star of the show and just be the one to defeat Emu. I think he's a little bit too late game of an addition for something like that. That sounds pretty insane, I would think. I can't really wrap my mind around that happening. But if Emu is defeated by a team effort that doesn't involve Luffy, then I imagine Loki would be one of the key ones. Like, I talked before in a video about, like, I think Shanks, Dragon, now Loki. I think there's certain characters that are really primed to play a personal role in Emu's defeat, which is possibly involving a team effort. And so I think that we could maybe see something like that. I know Luffy's defeating Blackbeard, though. You forgot to add Yamato to the list of strides? No, that's not happening. Rain asks, so when you say no personal stuff, please, do you mean your personal stuff or our personal stuff, lol? Really my personal stuff, but it's to a degree, because, like, it is also a space where you can ask me more curious questions about, like, my past, life to some degree and everything like that. So, like, as long as you don't get, like, too personal, like, Morge, where'd you go to, what elementary school did you go to or something like that. Like, that's where, there's going to be places that there's cutoffs, but, like, if you ask me a question, I might be like, okay, I can't tell you where I went to. It's not like a wasted question either, because if you ask a question that I deem is too personal, I might not answer that directly, but I might answer something adjacent, Like, Morge, tell me your address. Okay, I'm not going to answer that, but I can tell you, like, a little bit about where I kind of grew up or something like that, So just use your best judgment, I think. Yeah, on the Pirate King podcast, there's never, like... if somebody asks a question, I'm never just going to be, like, even if it's a question that it's like, okay, I can't really answer this, I'm never just going to, like, skip it and be like, okay, your question is just denied, because I want to give everybody something. So I'm going to answer to the best of my ability everybody's question. Shaker Magnus, thanks for the 10 on why Oda had Sanji go down the cyborg route, and I think it's because Zoro has 2 roots of power, Black Blades and Conqueror's Haki, so he gave Sanji 2 as well. He usually has them get power-ups in the same arc. But the thing with the Black Blades is that's still a facet of Haki, right? That's just improving Haki. By that logic, Oda could just give Sanji future sight and not give Zoro future sight, or give Sanji some levels of observation haki that Zoro doesn't get. Black Blades, as far as we know, it's more like it's improving the strength of the blade, right? But at the end of the day, I imagine that doesn't make that much of a difference. It's more so, I feel like what a Black Blade symbolizes matters more than whether or not the blade. Like, I don't think Zoro got weaker switching from a Black Blade, Chusui, to a not Black Blade, Enma. You know what I mean? New X7, thanks to the 2. Hey, Morge, just wanted to donate to show support. Thank you, New X7. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah. What's your mother's name, maiden name? What was the name of your first pet? What's your social security number? Yeah. Jordan asks, I'm surprised you're using Excel more as you love Microsoft Paint. Oh my god, I forgot about the Microsoft Paint days. Man. Time out, because I started using Whimsical a lot, but the Paint days were great. Do you prefer me using MS Paint or Whimsical? Whimsical is just more user-friendly, but I think Paint had a certain charm to it in terms of how crude everything had to be. You know? Where are the podcast videos available? So, it's split because you can get it 2 ways. So, either if you become a Pirate King member on YouTube, you then get access to a playlist that has all the Pirate King member podcasts. And there's community posts, so you can always see where the newest one is, and it always has a link to the rest of the playlist. If you're a patron, then you just go to Patreon, and you're able to access all Pirate King posts and all past patron posts. Green Tornado says neither, bro. Oh man, you guys I don't feel like you guys. I think you just find it funnier when I'm using Microsoft Paint, but Whimsical, I think, is functionally more like, oh, you guys don't know what Whimsical is. Whimsical's the thing that I organize everything on now. It's the one that I do, you see the every stream that I share stream, I usually do Whimsical. The late penalties are on there, yada yada. Clown Tom, thanks for the 5. Not saying to make a tier list, but do you want the link to the old template we did on this topic for reference? I still have the images saved. Nah, that's fine. I think we're just going to go Excel sheet with this one, because I kind of just want to rank out for each stride kind of like this. And tier list, I think, doesn't work as well. But I know you're saying not make tier list, but I don't want to include images and stuff. That overcomplicates it for me here. All right, we're going to leave this alone. Microsoft Paint is funny, but Whimsical is better. Yeah, I think the shift to Whimsical is better overall. Let's get Streamlabs up to 50 real quick. All right, so looking at this, right? I'm going to leave Luffy out of it because Luffy has too many fights. Right? Luffy has too many fights. So, oh shoot, you know what? We could do this. Let's do Pub Meeple. Fuck yeah, let's do Pub Meeple. We're doing Pub Meeple. Yeah, let's Pub Meeple this. That's what we need to be using here. This is what we need to be using. Fuck yeah. All right. Pub Meeple is the answer. Someone told me on stream about Pub Meeple like a long time ago, and that was like the perfect... that was the thing that I needed that I didn't know we needed. All right, so we're gonna start with Zoro here. All right, we're gonna start with Zoro. So all Zoro opponents throughout the story, we're gonna give them a little ranking. All right. The reason I do this is because we're coming up on the Straw Hats' next batch of major fights here in Elbaf. It looks like, so I think this is a good opportunity to get some of this in. All right. So we're not gonna do Luffy. We're just gonna go down the list. All right. If we have a lot of time at the end, we can do Luffy. Yeah, we already did a Luffy fight stream. Yeah, there's no need to beat that horse. So I'm just going to go from the beginning of the story. All right? So I think Kabaji is number 1. We're going to do fights that are mainly Zoro fights. So, like, technically Zoro finished off Axe and Morgan, but it wasn't mainly a Zoro fight, right? Then who we got after that? Nyaban Brothers. These are going to be only fights that Zoro won. So we're going to leave out the Mihawk fight because I just don't know how you rate that, right? That's a great fight, but whatever. Hachi, Mr. One, Ohm, Groggy Monsters is a team fight. I'll leave that out. Right, we'll do Zoro special. Kaku, Ryuma. He actually gets a good Hyozo. He gets a good amount in the New World. They're all just really easy for the most part. Like, it's actually insane that Hyozo, Monet, Pika, like 3 straight arcs, about 200 chapters of post time skip is Zoro getting joke fights, and then he's not in Whole Cake Island in 300 chapters. Oh my god. Yeah, what was Oda doing? Why did it take fucking 450 chapters, 400 something chapters of the post time skip for most of the struts to get like significant fights? That's kind of insane. What the fuck? All right, Pika. Do we do all of his little Wano fights? Because like the killer fight is like 2 pages, you know. Hawkins is. I'm not gonna do that, right? We'll do his major fights of each arc, right? Pika King. I'll throw in Lucci because just why not? I think it gets enough screen time. Oh, Brahm. Yeah, I'll throw in Brahm. Monet counts. Monet's a long enough fight. There's enough page time dedicated to that. All right, we ready? Yeah, only actual fights, no scrimmages or off-screen fights. I think Lucci barely makes the cut as a real fight. All right, ready? We good? All right, let's do it. Let's rank it. 27 comparisons. Jesus Christ. All right. I always start Pub Meeple thinking it's a great idea, and then partway through it, I'm like, oh my god, we've messed up in terms of the time commitment for this. Okay, Pika versus Kabaji. I mean, I think the Pika fight clearly wins this, right? Unless there's some major Kabaji fans. Low-key Kabaji. Kabaji was more intense. Kabaji was more intense. The Pika fight's just cool. Oh my god, this is actually really close. All right. Because it's close, everybody get your votes in. It's actually going to be real close here. Teptio, thanks for the 5. I'm still shocked the 4 Emperor Saga had so little story. Zoro, since if it takes like 400 chapters, Oda should be thinking on story for the Straw Hats first. I think so. Okay, so to me, what I've realized now, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but what I'm realizing now is that the stretch of time skip from Fishman Island through Wano, that stretch of storytelling is remarkably not Straw Hat focused whatsoever, right? I'd say Whole Cake is the only arc that really gets juicy storytelling out of the Straw Hats, but it's only half the crew, so it's a give and take there, right? I feel like that whole section of the story almost feels like setup for the final saga stuff. It feels like a lot of, because if I look at it, right, like what are some major things that happen arc to arc? Like Punk Hazard and Dressrosa, not actually that much. A lot of that is set up for Wano and establishing things about the state of the world and some of the arms race things that are going on. Dressrosa, similar. I'd say the big thing is it gives us the Grand Fleet, but beyond that, more set up for Wano. Fishman Island, just some exposition about the state of the world, and then some fights, Shiroshi reveal. Whole Cake was the only personal storyline. And interestingly, Whole Cake's only major plot impact is setting up for Wano. Yeah. I don't know. That stretch of the story gave us lots of allies for the final war, set up lots of side stuff for the final war. I don't know. All right, so Pika's taking this. Ohm versus Monet. Zoro versus Pika was straight aura farming for Zoro. Yeah, and it's okay to enjoy a fight for that, you know? Zoro also showed more character by tanking Kabaji's underhanded tricks. Yeah, that's true. Keep in mind that this was very early in the story, so Oda was still establishing Zoro's character, right? So the Kabaji fight was actually important to further understanding Zoro and his like we just met this dude. So it was important to further understanding the character and his philosophy of what it meant to be pursuing this path of trying to become the world's strongest swordsman. Monet was the Monet fight was also aura farming. Zoro's early fights in One Piece were definitely early fights in post time skip up till King were definitely aura farming. Yeah, Hyozo, Monet, and Pika all aura farming fights. Zoro versus Pika was funny. Zoro making fun of his voice the whole time. So I always thought it was an interesting choice because I mean I read it first in the manga like a lot of people. To me that was like a weird gag because you can't hear voices in manga. So it was just like the characters talking and then Zoro's just laughing a lot about it and I'm just like I'm sure it's like a funny I'm sure it's funny in Oda's head, but I don't know. All right, looks like Ohm is going to take that one. Nyaban Brothers versus Kaku. I think we can all safely say Kaku. King fight versus Lucci fight. I think everyone can safely say the King fight was a lot better than the Lucci fight. Hachi versus Hyozo. I can throw this for a pull, but I mean, I like the Hachi fight a lot better. They're both essentially what should be low diff fights for Zoro. It's just the Hachi fight actually ends up being very taxing for Zoro because of the circumstances. Pika isn't even a fight. It comes off as a quick time event cutscene. Lucci fight was dope though. Lucci fight was. We're going with manga here. In the manga, not in the anime. All right. Not in the anime. I know the anime makes the Lucci fight actually look pretty cool. Mr. One versus Pika. I mean, I can do a poll just to do a poll, but I feel like there's nothing to really poll here, right? Let me add a specifier. Manga version. All right. Because the Lucci fight, I think, is the one that's going to have the biggest discrepancy if you view it in the manga or in the anime. Because if you go by anime versions, Lucci fight's like one of Zoro's best fights. All right, we got Mr. One. Mr. One for me is still my favorite Zoro fight. Om versus Brahm. Om or Brahm? I mean, this is a pretty direct comparison because it's even in the same arc, you know? Das Bones, yeah. Brahm, first time Zoro used a cannon. Anders says Mr. One is objectively his best fight to the point that Oda just rehashes it for the King fight. Lol, that is kinda true. Oh, Monet versus Brahm. Monet versus Brahm. What would that... More to pull up the Braum fight right now. It's fire. I remember the Braum fight is kind of cool. Like it's actually it's a pretty cool fight. It's guns versus swords, and it's like an interesting little challenge for Zoro right there, especially because obviously, how do I say this? Obviously, Zoro's the stronger character by good margin, but he was faced with like an actually difficult matchup, and Braum wasn't like a joke fighter either. You know, like the Nayabon brothers or Kabaji. He was like a skilled character, you know. Kaku or Ryuma? Kaku or Ryuma? More, do you think Zoro's going to appeal to Dorian Brogy's competitive nature? Basically would cause the rift between the two in Little Garden. That would be such a good idea. I could see Zoro doing that. I feel like his method may be more direct in terms of just trying to fight them straight on. But I could see him doing that. Yeah, these are both good fights. I lean towards the Kaku fight, but the Ryuma fight's pretty cool too. The Ryuma fight is kind of just, it's pretty much non-stop action throughout, and it's got some pretty cool sword choreography for Zoro. The Kaku fight is more back and forth storytelling, and the context of the fight is a lot more significant as well, with any slobby and a lot more emotions. And I think the Ashra thing is the kicker for me. So, yeah, it looks like Kaku wins this, but I do think it was tight. I do think that the Ryuma fight is also really good. Naiban Brothers versus Ryuma. We're going to just say Ryuma. Hachi versus King. We're going to say King. Hachi fight versus Lucci fight. I think it's the more pure sword fight with Ryuma. Yeah, I think Ryuma might actually be his most pure. Yeah, Zoro actually gets kind of robbed in the story, in that like he's looking for these honorable swordsman duels, you know, and no one really gives him that. I'd say in terms of truly just straight swordsmanship, right? Just a pure sword fight, no other gimmicks from the opponent. I think there's two that I can think of. Correct me if I'm wrong. We don't count Mihawk, right? I think there's only two. And only one that's like a significant fight. It's Ryuma and I think Shipcut or T-Bone. Unless I'm terrible, like unless I'm completely forgetting something. I think those are his only two like truly involved, extended gimmicking as part of swordsmanship, though. I guess what Zoro views as honorable swordsmanship, you know? And T-Bone practically doesn't count, of course, because that fight is like 2 moves. Kaku is like 95% swordsmanship because he used Tempest Kick and a melee attack. He uses his neck quite a bit. Like, for the first part of his fight, I think he's not even using swords, actually, right? He's using just hooves. He pulls out the swords later. Early on, he's using swords and kicks. Then he goes into giraffe mode, and for a long time, he's not using swords. Then, partway through the giraffe mode, finally he pulls out the swords for like half a chapter. Isn't Hachi a swordsman too? Yeah, Hachi uses fists as well, and he kind of tries to like cheese Zoro a little bit. Mr. One is just a sword himself. I get what everybody's saying. It's like, well, these things are all pure swordsmanship adjacent, but I'm saying like someone that's like a mirror to Zoro, like just fights purely with a sword, right? a V-Stat or a Mihawk type opponent, right? It's just been the zombie Ryuma fight, really, throughout the story. Yeah, Hachi's taking this slightly. Lucci Hyozo. Sword in mouth is a gimmick. Not really. It's just that's just triple wielding a sword. I don't know. To me, like poison is a gimmick. Like Hyozo pulls out poison. You know. Um, that's my take, but I don't know. We're talking about the fight against Water Seven Lucci or Base Lucci. We're talking about the Base Lucci fight. No. Oh, okay. Okay, Lucci's gonna take it here. Ohm versus Mr. One. Ohm versus Mr. One. I don't think I need to do the poll here. I feel like Mr. One kind of just it's obvious. Lucci having any votes here just shows how much people underrated Fishman Island. Yeah, I actually prefer the Fishman Island fight. I prefer the Hyozo fight. I'll show you guys my ranking afterwards. Ohm fight versus Pika fight. Nothing about his zone transformation is base. Yeah, people are just joking. Thank God Odin lent him some hockey. It was base Lucci after all. I think a lot of people have forgotten. This is Pinnacle Rain saying only Luffy and Vivi, Usopp and Nami, and a few Baroque's Works members heard Dorian Brogy's explanation of their duel, and a couple other big implications for later. Yeah, I think that it could just be explained that Zoro heard about it off screen, like the crew just talking about it, because Oda can kind of play that how he wants. Where lots of times it's like, what the fuck? Why don't the crew members know about this big specific thing or something like that? Oh, they just didn't talk about it. But then there's other times that crew members turn out to know something that the others experienced in the past and have apparently shared with them off screen. They'll be like, oh, this, didn't you guys say that this person did this thing in the past or something? That also happens. All right, we got Ohm taking this fight. Interesting. Pika versus Brahm. I wonder how far down Pika's going to go down the list. I actually prefer the Pika fight to the Ohm fight. Because even if it is Zoro, like, just looking badass or whatever, it's still, I think, cool. I think it's one of my favorite moments from Dressrosa, actually. I thought it was a cool chapter. I'm gonna be honest, like Dressrosa doesn't have a lot of highs in terms of moments for me. I think that I've talked about this last stream. Usopp sniping is my favorite scene in Dressrosa. I think I enjoyed the Luffy Gear 4th section, but only the Luffy Gear 4th section. I don't enjoy the rest of the Luffy and Law versus Doflamingo fight. Um, and then Zoro versus Pika. I love that fight. I actually do like that fight because I thought it was cool for its time. As an Usopp fan, I was eating in Dressrosa. Yeah, he got a statue devoted to him by the end of it. All right, we got Pika. Braum versus Kabaji. Braum versus Kabaji. I feel like this should be easy, right? Braum should just take this. Why do you not like Luffy and Law versus Dofi? Because it was Luffy and Law versus Doflamingo. I found that section of the fight to be irritating because we had one brief moment. So one, there's my own bias, right? So there's my own bias, which is I did not enjoy the character Trafalgar Law. I didn't enjoy the character Law that much. I really, really felt like this was a character. It was just genuinely bizarre Twilight Zone shit. I've done this rant many times. I don't have the energy for it at the moment, but it was generally, I was like, what is fucking going on in the story, right? Like, what is happening? This character who pre-time skip was just this random side character or whatever, has now, for the last 150 chapters, essentially been promoted to the main character of One Piece out of the fucking blue. It was genuinely bizarre, and other people didn't have a problem with it. I was so fucking confused. Luffy was fucking sidelined for all of Dressrosa, right? Like, Law was the star of Punk Hazard. He had so many cool fights in Punk Hazard. While he had so many cool fights in Punk Hazard, while Luffy was going like 3 rounds of difficulty with fucking Caesar Clown. And keep in mind, like, Law's first debut fight in Punk Hazard was defeating Luffy's biggest ongoing marine. He defeated Luffy's biggest rival in the story up to that point, which was Smoker. Like, it's easy to forget, but pre-time skip, Smoker was Luffy's rival. That was his long-running rival that he would see repeatedly in Logtown and Alabasta and fucking Marineford. And each time, Smoker would get the better of him. And then we're leaving Fishman Island, and we find out that Smoker's actually waiting, and he's right there. Like, he's going to be in the first arc. Smoker's waiting above Fishman Island or whatever. So it's like, oh boy, let's see what happens here. And it's like, the first thing that happens is Smoker loses to somebody not Luffy, to Law, okay? I said I didn't have the energy for the rant. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. But to me, it was just this like crazy, bizarro spiral that we're going down where it's like Law starts by defeating Smoker. And then he goes on to defeat the strongest character, the strongest villain of Punk Hazard, Virgo, in one shot, while Luffy is, again, 3 tries, 3 rounds of difficulty to defeat Caesar, and I'm like, holy shit, if Rayleigh watched the shit that Luffy's doing right now, he'd be having a fucking aneurysm. And so Law's the main character of Punk Hazard, becomes even more the main character of Dressrosa, and this whole Dressrosa storyline's running, and then we get to the climax of Dressrosa, and then it's time for the final fight, and now it's just like Luffy and Law versus Doflamingo. And I'm losing my fucking mind. Like, I'm flipping through the hundreds of chapters of One Piece that we've had to now. It's like Luffy versus Arlong, Luffy versus Don Krieg, Luffy versus Crocodile, Luffy versus Wapol, Luffy versus Enel, Luffy versus Moria, Luffy versus Lucci. Check. Oh, now we get to post-time skip, and it's like Law and Luffy versus Doflamingo. What is going on? Like, Law and Luffy versus Doflamingo was just like the straw that broke the camel's back for me, in the sense that, like, I'm like, what are we doing here? What is going on? Why is this guy still here? And he's here in Luffy's moment. Like, it is always Luffy's moment to defeat the bad guy. Why is this guy still here? What are we doing here? Like, even in fucking, and people are like, oh, well, Law's the one who personally hates Doflamingo and stuff. I don't give a shit. In every other arc in One Piece up till now, there's always been characters that hate the main villain more than Luffy. That doesn't mean they're invited to the final battle. Like, it wasn't even fucking, even Wiper. It wasn't Wiper and Luffy versus Enel. It was Luffy versus Enel. Like, normally what happens is the other guys, you know, they get their shot, you know, but they don't actually get to defeat the bad guy, right? But for the first time, it's like, we've gone so far off the deep end that now we're in a story that every single arc has been Luffy versus the villain. Now this character that has been strangely inserted to just take over the fucking show, like fucking Steve Urkel from Family Matters. Now this guy is, even in the spots that are supposed to be just Luffy, this guy is still here, right? So I fucking hated it right off the bat. I'm like, there's that panel of Luffy and Law standing ready to fight Doflamingo, and it's like a well-known iconic panel. I hate that panel. I'm like, why is this happening? Why is this dude still here? This motherfucker already lost to Doflamingo really badly and had to be rescued like 60 chapters ago. Did we all fucking forget that? He already had his turn. Give him somebody else. Give him somebody else to fight, because that's what happens every One Piece arc, right? You usher out the side characters so Luffy can fight. But instead, we're and it's just the dumbest thing, because like at the end of the day, it becomes Luffy versus Doflamingo. It turns into Gear 4 Luffy versus Doflamingo. So it already becomes the thing that it's supposed to be, but we have to go through this song and dance where like Luffy and Law versus Doflamingo, and I'm like, we're just supposed to accept that this is like the dynamic duo that nobody ever asked for. And so we're reading that, and it's the dumbest fight, because it's like they don't even fight as a team against Doflamingo much. Instead, Luffy is made to fight, I'm not joking, Bellamy again. And he's off-screen basically yelling, Bellamy, Doflamingo. He's just yelling, like our fucking main character. Like, what was the point of the team up? Like, they're not even fighting as a team. And then Treble's in there for some reason, just being obnoxious. And then you just watch Law lose again. It's just genuinely ridiculously dumb. I don't know. More just ignoring Treble being there for the agenda, BTW. I mentioned Treble, but he's such a non-factor in the fight that it doesn't even matter. I don't know. Luffy fought Doflamingo in 1v1 afterwards. Why is Mort so mad about this? Luffy and Law versus Doflamingo was the better part of that fight, though. It literally wasn't, because there was no team up against Doflamingo. It's literally like one move, the Red Hawk, and then after that, Luffy is sidelined to fight Bellamy off screen, while Doflamingo gets a second run. Law gets a second run of going up against Doflamingo, but we already fucking covered this in the beginning of the arc. And Law is not the main character of the story, so why are we doing this thing again? It's just bizarre. I don't know. So it's not that you don't like Law's personality, you just don't think there's enough context or reason to justify Law's level of involvement. I thought I've done enough rants on Law that I thought that it makes sense. Yes, Law does not belong in the story in anywhere close to the capacity that he was forced into it. It just does. It's so fucking bizarre. It's really bizarre. The story literally went from Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates to Law and Friends. That's literally, like, you cannot tell me that from Punk Hazard through Dressrosa, which is 150 chapters of One Piece, like a really fucking long time, several years of weekly reading, by the way, that the story was not essentially the Trafalgar Law adventures and here's some kooky side characters, the ones that we've actually spent, 600 chapters getting invested in, but now they're just like the random side characters that get the baby plot lines that don't really matter, and they get almost no involvement and no development during this period of time because it's the Trafalgar Law show. And you know what? Once we get to Dressrosa, we need even more Law screen time. Some of these strats, they've been taking up some screen time from Law. So you know what? Editorial decision, we're actually going to ship off half of our main characters who we've grown to like know and love. We're just not even going to have them, so that Law can have more fucking screen time. It is the weirdest thing. Because Oda, throughout the story up to this point, has very successfully incorporated like side character storylines phenomenally without having them just like dominate the show. This is the only time in One Piece where everyone just like, I don't know, Oda and everyone at all of his editors lost their minds and they're like, what if we just made the whole thing about Law? Fuck the Strats. What if they're just like, some fucking background characters? You know what? I think we have too many Straw Hats. What if Sanji, Nami, Chopper, Brook, let's just send them to another island, Let's get some more Trafalgar Law time in. It's actually just insane. It's actually insane. Anyway, Luffy and Law versus Doflamingo, I think, is a bad fight. And I think it's fucking stupid. And it just makes no sense because, like, we've read so many arcs of One Piece. Oda's got, like, a formula that works, which is, like, Luffy fights the main villain. That's what's cool. But now it's just, like, what if Luffy is fighting fucking Bellamy again downstairs off screen and Trafalgar Law gets to fight Doflamingo? Genius. Amazing. I could not wait week after week to watch Luffy not fight Doflamingo and instead watch Law lose a second time to Doflamingo. Brilliant writing. What the fuck? Anyway, Law as a character, by the way, if he was introduced much earlier in the story, like if you swap Law for Zoro and let's say Law was a Straw Hat right from the beginning or something, right? I would probably really like Law as a character. He has a lot of character traits and personality traits, etc., that I like as a character. That doesn't shift the fact that the story, as it has developed, has been about Luffy and the Straw Hats, not fucking Sasuke ripoff. Weird Oda insert. Anyway. Mind Shackle says, Moore's complaining about shaking up the formula. I'm in tears. There's a difference between shaking up the formula and just being like, we're just going to erase the characters that you knew and loved to insert this brand new character who you have no prior attachment to. And it's just going to be about him from now on. That for 150 chapters. I feel like I cannot stress that enough. 150 chapters is a very, 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 very long time. That's like close to the full length of several popular manga series, you know? Dobby Greg says, why doesn't Loki bother you? Because Loki, one, has been in the story for a very, very brief period of time, and two, Loki has not yet begun to dominate the story in the way that Trafalgar Law is. For example, you know how many characters Loki has defeated or how many opponents he's stolen from Luffy? 0. I guess you could count the skeleton Draugr or something like that. I guess you could count that. But Loki's literally been... Loki functionally cannot have been dominating the story because literally up till last chapter, the dude was in handcuffs. That is so far away from Trafalgar Law's impact on the story, cannot be even remotely compared. Like, Loki was fucking tied to a tree for 50% of the time that we knew him. And then the new 50%, he's still been fucking chained up. So, like, what do you want? I'm like, what level of, how much more do you want to repress Loki's role in the story? We'd have to fucking put him in like a fucking iron box where he's not even allowed to talk or anything like that. How has Loki been dominating the story in any capacity close to Law? What the fuck? I don't know. The dude... You're asking like a character that's literally been imprisoned for the entirety of the time that we've known him. You're like, well, that guy's dominating the story. That guy can't even fucking scratch his own nose. What the fuck? Brahm versus Kabaji. All right, Brahm takes it. I said I wouldn't get heated about this, but I couldn't help it. All right. Dobby Greg says, I meant more in terms of expectation you have for him. If Loki helped in the Emu fight, do you think it will be a problem for you? I already feel like the Emu fight's going to be a team fight. If it's Luffy and Loki against Emu, it feels like it's something that Oda might be setting up for. Like, I'm not going to lie. It feels like something that Oda might be setting up for, and I think Loki would have been introduced really late in the game if the whole thing comes down to Luffy and Loki versus Emu. But I'm going to give time, whatever, for things to develop as they're going to develop. We don't know how many chapters One Piece has left. So I'm not going to prejudge. All I can judge is I know from Punk Hazard through Dressrosa, it truly became the Trafalgar Law show with Luffy and the Straw Hats essentially becoming background characters. If Loki does something to the story similar to that, I cannot imagine myself continuing to like the character. All right, get your not stream likes. Let's get the stream likes up, but also let's do both. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick, and also get your votes in on this one because this one is dead even 50-50. Get your votes in. What about Luffy and Law versus Emu? Oh, that would be terrible. That would be truly terrible. Unless Law sacrifices himself to undo the immortality that Emu has or something, then I'd be down. Then I'd be good. The hard parts literally had the easiest opponent after Wano and they still got cooked. Shake my head. Yeah, no, I think they got the hardest route because if they'd gone to Elbaf, right? Let's say they'd gone to the hard parts got screwed, okay? Um, because if they'd gone to Egghead, then they're pretty much all good, right? Like they're not going to cause a huge scene or ruckus or whatever. They're probably not going to agree to take Vegapunk off the island, but I think they don't get the Buster Call brought down on them either. So I think Egghead, they're fine. Elbaf, I think they're also fine because all they have to do is not try to kill Shanks. Kid didn't even get screwed by his route. He showed up and was like, I want to kill Shanks. I want to take out Shanks here. He picked a fight that he really didn't need to do, and that's what, like, it's not like he got bad luck or something. He could have actually just shown up to Elbaf, been like, hey Shanks, I apologize from before. I've learned my lesson. And the Giants of Elbaf would probably have welcomed him, one, because they're very friendly and peaceful people, and two, because Kid would have been responsible for taking out Big Mom. And they fucking hate Big Mom. So Kid basically screwed a perfectly good situation for no real reason. I think Law got the short end of the stick there. Elbaf was basically the safest place you could have gone to because there's really no problem there. Egghead, it's a government hotspot, so arriving there could send off alarms. And then Law's route, basically, that Blackbeard swooped in, you know. Okay, Monet. King fight versus the Kaku fight. Curious about that one. Did we put the killer fight in here? No, because it's literally it's like 3 panels. Oda kind of skips the fight for most of that. I think you could argue the Lucci fight. The killer fight is slightly less panel space than the Lucci fight. I think the Lucci fight will do as the cutoff. Because I think the Lucci fight at least had a bit of a story and narrative to it. The killer fight there's nothing. Like, they just clash and then Zoro wins. There's a moment where, I guess the moment of Zoro getting stabbed by the scythe and everything that entails, I guess that could maybe make it a bit more of a story, I guess. So I guess it's hard to say. Yeah, I think the King fight is better. I have the King fight as my second favorite. Kaku versus Hachi, I think people would have Kaku, right? Hachi versus Ryuma, I think people have Ryuma. Hachi versus the Naiban brothers. How is King better than Kaku? I think the King fight pushed Zoro a lot more. I won't say I love like the storytelling of the King fight necessarily. And I do like the Kaku fight a lot. The Kaku fight is, for me, the Kaku fight is third among my favorite Zoro fights. I've still got Mr. 1, number 1, King number 2. I do value how much the main character gets pushed and everything. I don't really like Zoro's growth out of the King fight because I feel like it was non-existent. So I feel like it was kind of silly. The Kaku fight doesn't have growth either, but I think like growth isn't a necessity. Like Ryuma has a great fight without growth, right? Growth isn't a necessity, but like the King fight, I'm kind of like, well, it attempted to do something for the character, but didn't really, in my opinion. We're not including Zoro versus Mihawk. Lucci versus the Naibon brothers. Let's see. Oda really gives Zoro fights just to give him fights. Yeah, I think like lots of times, because like you see the Lucci fight, and a simple feeling for me seeing the Lucci fight is just like this wasn't necessary at all. Like you could remove the Lucci fight from the story, and it feels like nothing is lost from Egghead. It feels like Oda gave like almost zero effort into it. Zoro didn't gain any new abilities or anything like that. Didn't really gain stronger. I think one thing it establishes that Zoro doesn't have control over his Conqueror's Haki, because my reading of it now, with the new information that Gaban gave us, is that Zoro probably wasn't using Conqueror's Haki throughout the fight, but it took him getting emotionally triggered by Sanji's comment for it to be pulled out. But I think that Zoro in general, because his story is specifically about strength, becoming the world's strongest swordsman, Oda's just gonna make sure that he's always getting fights throughout the story because it's important to his path. Hyozo versus the Naibon brothers. It's almost like Zoro's whole point in the story is to get stronger through fighting. Yeah. So, like, he's got to keep getting fights. It's just the way it is. I wonder if Naibon brothers end up in last for us. This is King versus Mr. One. This is the heavyweight top match. Anything is better than Naibon brothers. I wouldn't intuitively have thought of Naibon brothers as Zoro's quote-unquote worst fight. Did Mr. Morge miss my super system to you? Oh, shit, let me see. I hope not. Sorry, I did. Tiptio, thanks for the 5. Law's role got expanded because Dressrosa became a world government parallel kingdom arc, and set up because Law's connection to Doflamingo also expanded since he's the thread. That is actually a very, very, very good point. I don't know if it became part of what a natural consequence of Dressrosa ballooning into a very, very big storyline. And what's crazy is Dressrosa was almost going to be even longer because Oda initially wanted to split Punk Hazard into 2 separate arcs, Fire Island and Ice Island, and he wanted to make Green Bit its own arc and everything. So like that's a lot of storytelling leading up to just defeating Doflamingo, who in the grand scheme of things is like a Yonko third commander level character, which is kind of crazy that Oda wanted to do it like that spread out. But you're right, Law's role did get just really, really big over that period of time because he essentially was the primary side character of a storyline that ballooned into a very, very extensive storyline that tried to cover a lot of ground. But I do think even in that context, Oda elevated him in a role that I have never seen a side character. Because, like, Vivi in the Baroque Works Saga, obviously really, really important. But she never infringed on Luffy, right? Because 2 different things, right? And you could say, well, that's because Vivi's not a warrior. But then Wiper's a warrior, and Wiper's extremely important to this Skypiea Saga. But it's not like, even then, like, it's not like, okay, Wiper is going around defeating characters that really Luffy should be defeating. Like, Virgo and Punk Hazard was just baffling because it's like, why is Oda having Luffy fight this, like, literal clown gas dude with a joke ability 3 times? Like, why 3 times? While Law's fighting this fucking badass hockey master, you know, the type of fights that we want to see Luffy getting, clearly the strongest villain in the arc. When is, like, there's never a time that some random side character is defeating the strongest villain of the arc while Luffy's defeating some joke. The strongest villain of the arc, that's Luffy's role. in the story. That's what we follow him for, right? And then we got to Dressrosa, and it's like, again, for the majority of the arc, like, it's one thing to be a very important side character, but the majority of the arc, Luffy's just in the Colosseum, like, he's just dropped into a Colosseum to fight bozos, while Law's out there fighting Fujitora and Doflamingo at the same time. And then he gets another match against Doflamingo. And then he gets a third match against Doflamingo. He gets so many runbacks against Doflamingo, it's insane. And then you're getting to the final battle, and it's Luffy and this other dude against the final boss, and it's like, what are we even doing here? Like, there's so many phenomenally written side characters that Oda's done in the story before this, pre-time skip, but it never is like, they're never eating up the story and Luffy's role to that degree like it happened in the Punk Hazard Dressrosa storyline. And the thing that makes me feel the most insane is that nobody seems to mind. Everyone's just like, yeah, whatever, it just became the Law show. Fuck the Straw Hats and fuck Luffy. It just became the Law show for 150 chapters. We're cool with it. And that's what blows my mind, that nobody seems to have an issue. I'm like, we should all be rioting in the streets. We should be upset about this. We robbed of our favorite character. He's in some fish outfit running around in the Colosseum or something like that. Meek, thanks for the 2. In my opinion, Dragon in the Final War will be the new Law. You know what? That's deserved. That's deserved. Because Dragon, we've been reading about that dude for the longest time. Law's this dude that got airdropped on us. I'll be cool with Dragon having that role, because at the same time, I cannot imagine in the Final War it not being Luffy and the Straw Hats focused. I'm okay with side characters getting a tremendous amount of focus as long as it's not eating into Luffy and the Straw Hats. And I think that's really where Law did something that other side characters didn't. I hope Dragon has a huge role in the Final War. I hope Shanks does. I hope Kobe does. I hope all these characters do. But Luffy and the Straw Hats still need to be Luffy and the Straw Hats, the core of the whole thing. That's really what it comes down to. And Law's the only character that kind of like robbed that from the story. All right. He loses to Dofi every time. It's not like he made Law Gary Stu. I never complained that Law's this perfect character or Gary Stu. I'm just like, why the fuck are we fucking watching this dude all the time like he's the main character? I have a main character who I already like, and I like watching him beat all the bad guys. So could we please switch back to him? Oh wait, he's fighting fucking Don Chinjao for nothing. That's the craziest thing about the Colosseum fight. It literally does not matter in the end, because Sabo just swaps in for Luffy anyway. Luffy didn't even have to win the Colosseum fight. He didn't even need to be there the whole time. It wasn't important. He didn't even need to be there. It was literally just stalling Luffy with BS fights with Usi the Bull and Hadrudin, the joke of the giants, and like fucking Ideo and bullshit. I don't know. All right, we got Mr. 1. King and Ohm. I thought King and Mr. 1 would be a tighter split. I think if we include the anime, I think it's hard to argue with the King fight. Because just like, I think the storytelling of the Mr. 1 fight is still better. But the animation, like the anime of the King fight is just like a masterpiece. I know this is taking us a while, but keep in mind, Zoro has, I believe, more fights than the rest of the Straw Hats combined. So, we're actually doing the bulk of it right now, up front. Alright, King, of course. Kaku and Ohm. I think this should be easy for Kaku as well. Keep in mind, I was also a weekly Dressrosa reader. So these memories carry more trauma for me than from you guys. I actually this was before I was a content creator, right? So I could take breaks. I took a break from reading One Piece after Dressrosa, and I let Zoe pile up, and I was so happy once we got to Zoe. Reading the first several chapters, Zoe just felt like a breath of fresh air, less clutter, fewer characters, not a shit ton of storylines and plot threads, just nice, relaxed, just let the story breathe or whatever. So I was really happy I took that break. I think that is the last One Piece break I've ever taken because in Whole Cake Island, I became a content creator, so I got to be keeping up, Kahoot takes this. Taptia, thanks for the 5. Man, I think Dressrosa problem was Rebecca sucking, hurting Luffy's antagonistic with Dofi, and making Law's story the one readers connected emotionally. It is tricky because, usually, I think Oda, to me, right? Personal preference. I find that Oda does. I like Oda's storytelling with Luffy best when his anger is attached to something simple and more concrete. So, for example, Luffy versus Arlong feels very personal because really it's about Luffy, Arlong, and Nami. So it's very, very tight and focused. Luffy and sorry, my neck a little bit. Luffy and Crocodile again, it's very much about Vivi, right? Vivi, and Vivi's care for because Luffy himself doesn't care that much about Alabasta, but if you go back and read his dialogues with Crocodile, they get pretty hardcore for Luffy because the thing he keeps expressing is that Vivi's our friend and we're not going to abandon our friend. So it's very centered around a character, and he's like, if Alabasta's her fight, then Alabasta's also our fight, and we're going to put our lives on the line for that, right? I like those sort of scenarios. Lucci keeps threatening, I'm going to go kill your crew. Yada yada. Luffy's there for Robin, but also for his full crew. So it's very focused around Robin and the Straw Hat crew as a whole, right? Yeah, those are just the things I like. Katakuri, same thing. Very, very focused idea of just I need to beat you because my friends are all waiting for me. I need to get there by then because they're counting on me, right? There's entire chapters dedicated to that. I think when things are a little bit more broad, so for example, against Doflamingo, Luffy has a extended speech about you've made Rebecca cry and Law, you've made all of these different people upset, so I'm going to kick your ass to put you in your place. And it's not tied to one thing. It's more so you've done this to lots of people that I know, so I'm going to beat your ass. So he's thinking about Bellamy and Law and Rebecca and all of these various characters that he's met throughout Dressrosa. To me, that carries a little bit, because there's more that Luffy's thinking about, but I feel the focus is often just tighter when you can tie it to Luffy, one character he cares about, or his core close characters, not just Law over here, but also Rebecca, I met her, and then also you did this to, what do you call, Bellamy, and a mishmash of characters. So I tend to prefer that. It's also I don't feel a lot during the Kaido scenario, because when Luffy gets into listing things, he's I'm doing it for Kinemon and Momonosuke and also Pedro and stuff like that. To me, it's less focused than when he's just in it with Lucci and he's yelling about Robin the whole time. He's I'm doing this for Robin. I don't know. That's a personal preference, not a hard critique. We got Ryuma, Hachi, and Ohm. I imagine Ohm's just going to take this, right? Nandu, thanks for the 5. Really shows how bad Wano is. All of post-time skip leads to it. Fails on story and for the Strats. Zoro needed more fights. His quest to world's strongest swordsman feels lacking / hollow. Hey, I'm not going to rant more about Wano or whatever here, but I do think it is kind of crazy when you think that so much storytelling went into just setting up that arc. I especially don't think it's good for the Strats for the most part. As for Zoro needing more fights, look, I think the Dorian Brogy fight, if he gets one, if he gets both, we'll see, obviously, but I think that this would be his next purest, this would be his next pure fight in the story. Because as I said earlier, Ryuma is one of his few pure sword fights that he gets that's really intense, where it's just about the opponent's swordsman, it's just him and the opponent weapon to weapon, right? Who's the strongest warrior? There's not additional stuff like, King can use magma and like fly around and stuff like that, or Mr. One is a blade. All sorts of crazy stuff he can do with that. Ohm has an extending sword, yada yada. So I think the Dorian Brogy fight could finally be like Zoro's next battle that we could say like, really get your votes in for Hachi and Ohm. Really get your votes in, guys. This is a tight one. Where like Dorian Brogy are amped, so like they're on steroids, obviously, but in terms of the matchup itself, there's no gimmicks. They're just gonna be fighting with their weapons and their raw power, right? So it'll just be a warrior versus a warrior. Zombie Remo's lame though. I don't know. Dory has a trident and Brogy has an axe. They don't have swords, but they're still like they're all fighting as warriors with just their weapons, right? There's not really additional magic abilities or tricks that they have on either side. They have wings too. The wings, that's true. That's true. Let's see them fly. I wonder if we'll see them fly. I wonder if the giants are too big to fly. I guess flight is an additional component to it. Maybe this would be the closest we've gotten since the Ryuma fight to Zoro just fighting like a pure weapons fight. Let's get your votes in because this one's also very, very tight. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick because we're almost there. Is Dami Reversi Dorian Brogy Admiral level? I think that the combined challenge would be. It's funny because like some of the comments on the video, some people felt like I was overrating Dorian Brogy. Some people felt like I was underrating. If I were to say my spitballed opinions, right, just my guess, right? I feel like Dorian Brogy would each be individually like Yonko first mate type characters. I definitely don't think either of them are admirals. I think if you Dami Reversi them, so like amp them, and then you have to fight them together, I think that would be the equivalent type of challenge of fighting an admiral. But some people are going to say I'm underrating admirals. Some people will say that it's more than defeating an admiral. I don't know. I don't think either of them, even Dami Reversi'd, are admiral level. I don't know. Just because the admirals have such a... We got to wait and see what they can do. But I don't think that'd be the case. I think they'd go from being like first mate to like really strong first mate type characters. I don't know. But I think we need to... That's just my guess right now. I think we need to see a little bit of what they can do first. Yeah. Because it's possible I'm underrating them. It's possible that even just one of them, Dami Reversi'd, is now admiral level or something like that. That's possible too, In which case, I don't think Zoro can beat them both. So we gotta see what's realistic. All right, Hachi versus Brahm. Oh wait. Did I do that wrong? Yeah, no. Pico won. So now we got Hachi versus Brahm. Zoro doing all that just to have a Mr. 3 feet. One of them reverse he does Admiral level? Maybe. I think that's maybe. If that's the case, Zoro's not going to beat both of them. There's no way. Okay. We got Hachi. Then we got Lucci fight or the Braum fight. Let's see. I actually think that the Dorian Brogy fight is, I think it's low-key like a brilliant move by Oda to figure out if Zoro's getting both of them as opponents. I think that's a brilliant move by Oda to kind of bridge the gap closer to Mihawk, because I do think Zoro needs an Admiral level threat next, right? I think this is a way to do it without actually, like, the problem is that there's not that many Admiral level characters, right? So, like, there's the Admirals, which Zoro's obviously not going to, Oda saving them. They've got to go down in the final war. There's actual Admirals, and then there's Gorosei, right? They're not going to be fighting here. And then after that, you got, like, Yonko characters, maybe Shamrock, like, stuff like that. Like, they're pretty rare. So, this is a good way to do it. Like, okay, Dami reverse some characters to make, and then have Zoro fight them, maybe both together, Nandu, thanks to the 5. Zoro should have fought Cavendish and Fujitora, maybe in Dressrosa, more in Wano, actual swordsman. He gets some sparring against Fujitora and Dressrosa. Actually, if, like, that Fujitora encounter fed Zoro fans for years. Because they've, like, it doesn't make Zoro look bad, because no one's expecting him to beat an Admiral, but just the fact that an Admiral couldn't put him down, like, easily, and Zoro could, like, fight back a bit, that was a pretty, I think Zoro fans were, like, happy enough after Dressrosa. Because the Pika fight, like, yeah, Pika turned out to be kind of, like, a joke opponent for him, but it also made Zoro look really cool, and it left the question of, like, okay, well, he hasn't had to have a high-level 1v1 yet, so just how strong is he, Like, sometimes a character not being pushed to their limit and just flexing a lot is more exciting for the fans than, like, being shown a hard limit, In Wano, yeah, his dream depends on fights, unlike other strats. So what I'll say for Zoro in Wano is that he actually does get a good deal of fights in Wano. They're just very brief. So in Wano, Zoro actually fights every other supernova in Wano besides Kid and Law. He gets quite a few fights. He fights Hawkins in Act 1. Hawkins in Act 1. Killer in Act 2. In Act 3, he has, like, some fights with X-Drake and Apu. The X-Drake fight doesn't finish, but, like, Zoro also gets to put down Apu. And then he gets, like, some minor stuff in Act 2 also, like, even Yukimaru, stuff like that. Like, Zoro does a lot of fighting over the course of Wano. And then on top of that, like, you have all of those, and then Zoro also gets huge moments in the fight against the Yonko, Kaido, and Big Mom. And then after all that, he gets his 1v1 with King, right? So, like, if you're to think about it, in terms of, like, a lot of those fights are so quick and minor that I don't include them in this list that we're doing right now. But if you were hoping for Zoro to, like, kick a lot of ass in Wano, he does. Like, he really does get a lot of action. Doesn't get very good writing or a good storyline, in my opinion. It's funny because it's kind of a swap from Whole Cake Island, wherein Sanji got this arc that's devoted to him, and he gets a fairly involved character arc that people weren't really expecting from him, like good character focus. I think a big disappointment for Sanji fans back then was, like, he didn't get even one good fight. I think he had a couple moments. I think his best moment was he, like, blitzes Oven. So he gets, like, a moment, And then beyond that, like, Sanji fans basically had to, like, ride off of the Katakuri jelly bean thing literally for, like, 100+ chapters. Like, it was like, all right, Sanji got no fights, no big wins, but he dodged Katakuri's jelly bean, and we're gonna hold on to that. And I cannot tell you how often that fucking jelly bean has been brought up. Until Sanji got the Queen fight and he got his upgrades and everything like that. That jelly bean was like doing a lot of work. It was like the entire Sanji agenda was resting on that one fucking jelly bean moment. So, yeah, Whole Cake Island, I think a lot of Sanji fans probably appreciated the writing that he got there, but a lot of them hoped that he would, like, if you were reading Whole Cake Island actively, you might remember, like, there were posts all the time on the Reddit, discussions all the time of, like, okay, I think Sanji's going to fight this person, or I think the arc's going to end with Sanji beating one of his brothers, or I think the arc's going to, like, Sanji's going to get in on this fight. A lot of people, by the way, people might forget this. During Whole Cake, it actually became very popular of a belief that Sanji versus Katakuri was going to happen. Maybe not necessarily that arc, but that Oda might be setting up for a later arc, Sanji versus Katakuri. So, like, there was a lot of hopes for Sanji in terms of fights in that arc that just never panned out. With Zoro, it's kind of the reverse in that there was so much hopes for Zoro's writing and what Zoro's storyline might be in Wano, yada yada. And instead, we got a lot of fights. Like, he basically wiped the floor with all the other supernova in the arc. Hawkins, Apu, Killer, even X-Drake to some degree. Like, he got lots of fights against all the other supernova. He got a lot of fights in Wano. He got to fight against Kaido and Big Mom at the same time, and was low-key the MVP during his time against them. And then he gets to defeat King, gets Advanced Conqueror Zaki, so he gets all the fighting stuff that Zoro fans could have hoped for, but the writing is just not there for him in that arc. So, yeah, somewhere in the middle for both Zoro and Sanji would have been nice, I think, for both of their arcs. Things were pretty dire for Sanji pre-Act 3 in Wano. I think there was even stuff that Oda kind of gave... It was bizarre. There was stuff that Oda kind of gave Sanji in between, like the page 1 fight, and then he off-screened what even happened in the page 1 fight. It was just really strange. It was like, what the fuck? Savage adjaces now Sanji's entire scale is resting on him destroying a single laser. I think Oda does go extended periods where Sanji's just left high and dry, where it's like, there's one thing that's kind of like a moment that's holding up the agenda, but it's like, please get this man a fight against someone that's at least first mate level or higher or something like that. Yeah. Meek, thanks for the 5. Can you rank Momo, Shira, Hoshi, Vivi, and Loki in terms of your predicted importance in the final war? Ooh, that's like a really, really good question. That's a fun question. Let me put up the poll in the meantime. That's a really fun question. I think that's genuinely really difficult to guess because their impact is going to play out in different ways. So to me, it'd be kind of like, can you rate the Straw Hats' varying levels of importance in like the Enies Lobby storyline? And I think that's really hard to do because like you can make an amazing case for so many of them, right? Like, I think there's some like Chopper you probably can't make a case for, but I could make a case for Nami being the MVP of the entire Water 7 through Enies Lobby section if you combine the importance of navigation plus winning a CP9 fight plus how much work she did keeping the crew together and getting all of their asses in gear. I could make the case for her, but I could also make the case for Usopp, right? The one to save Robin, the one to bring Luffy back from the brink of despair, etc. I could make the case for Sanji, obviously defeats one of the CP9's strongest members, but also such a big role in terms of like getting them out of that whole mess at the end. Zoro obviously defeats the second strongest CP9 member and is a big force in terms of like Luffy's like guiding Luffy as captain, and he's also the one to get Robin's handcuff keys. There's so many characters that you could make a case for because there's differing roles. So it's like, if you want to compare based on straight like sorry, I'm watching TV over there. If you want to compare in terms of straight impact, like who's gonna have the most combat impact, I think Loki skews really hard. But then it's like, who's gonna have the most screen time? I wouldn't be surprised if Vivi has more screen time. But then in terms of just like being a plot device that changes the world, I feel like Shirahoshi is gonna be really huge. But I think Shirahoshi's actual screen time and character focus will be less. I don't know. I think that's a really hard question to evaluate. Actually, I might throw that as a poll to you guys. Let me throw that as a little poll to you guys. I think, yeah, part of it is like how important and then how big of a role. Because I think Shirahoshi will be really important just by her existence, but then I could imagine Momonosuke playing a bigger role, just more character focus and doing more things. Um, 55 Mita, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 34 months. Yo Morch, haven't been able to watch in a while, but wanted to say what's up. Going to Japan in a couple weeks for the first time, and was wondering if you or chat know any cool One Piece things to check out. All I know really is the Tokyo Tower, but maybe, which has like a One Piece museum, but maybe you guys in chat can fill them in on some things. And thank you for being a Pirate King member for so long. Make sure to get your submission in before you head out, because the submissions are up. And for those of you who don't know, the Pirate King podcast is the longest podcast that I do. I do it once a month for all Pirate King members. Every Pirate King member can submit a question about One Piece, other anime, movies, TV shows, manga, video games, some personal life, whatever. And I answer everybody's question in a very, very involved manner in the Pirate King podcast. And it's about an hour and a half. So go get your submissions in now if you haven't already. Justin, thanks for the 5. You say there's a chance Elbaf has to be destroyed. Where could people go, and what will their plans be for the war if that happens, in your opinion? Maybe fucking Galila. Maybe they got to find Galila, and they'll build them some ships or whatever. The tricky thing is, yeah, if Elbaf's destroyed right now, do they have enough ships to get people off the island? Maybe. But I do think that the entire world... So, like, keep in mind, Elbaf being destroyed, the entire world is going to start being in motion, because the flooding is going to begin to kick up again as Emu begins to presumably bomb more islands. So I think that it's not like even Elbaf has to go to one place specifically. Like maybe they go to a friend's place at first, like maybe Wano or something like that, or like a friend island. Maybe they fucking go to Fishman Island, right? Because Neptune and Harold had such a friendship, and I think Shirahoshi and Loki have a friendship. So I think those are possible routes. But I think in the grand scheme of things, very soon, most major nations are going to be having to be on the move. And I think that's why like Shirahoshi and the Ark are such a big deal, stuff like that. Teptia Trevisa, thanks for the 2. OP, where agendas ride on one attack or upscale trains. Yeah, that is just the way it is. So let's see what you guys think. People have Momonosuke pretty low in importance in the final war. I think Momonosuke is just as important as these other characters, personally. Because I think Wano's set up... Oh, man, my neck. I think Wano's set up to be really important as a location in the final war. And Momonosuke is stated to have a really big role. Yeah, I think Vivi is a really good bet. Like, Vivi's a very safe bet. It's Vivi, right? Like, it's already essentially a Straw Hat. Let's do Hyozo versus Brahm. Nara Park. So people are, 55 meds, people are suggesting Nara Park. Has anyone seen the new official Galila spelling? It's Galila. I thought that's what it was. Or I don't know. It was always Gali and then space La. I don't know. I don't fully understand some of the pronunciation things that happen in the story. Mo says, is there any stride you find annoying or don't really care for aside from Law? No. I would say slowly. So I've realized this. Slowly, even if I don't care for a Straw Hat initially, just through sheer virtue of them being around for a long time, I slowly get indoctrinated to stop disliking them. So remember, I used to dislike Jinbei. So let me give you guys a sliding scale. So also it looks like, oh, get your votes in on this one. This one's very tight. Everyone get your votes in. So if you guys remember, there was a period of time where I straight up disliked Jinbei, and I kind of didn't really care for Brook. I felt like his presence was... Like, I thought he was fun and funny as an individual character, but I felt like Brook was a point of diminishing returns in terms of additions to the Straw Hat crew, whereas now, once we added Brook, I was just like, I don't know if he's adding that much to the crew's normal dynamic, other than being another character to to take up space and drop more gags and stuff like that. So I always felt like Brook was not a necessary addition. So in the past I felt like Brook is a character I'm like kind of lukewarm on. Like I like him in isolation, but I will resent him a little bit as like the tipping point in my opinion once the Straw Hats got too many members from my point of view. And then I feel like Jinbei was a character I just disliked. So now enough time has passed where I would say these two characters have shifted one slot over each in my view. Where now I like Brook as a Straw Hat. And Jinbei has kind of shifted over to take Brook's spot as a character who I don't dislike. I no longer dislike Jinbei. I even like him okay in a vacuum. But I do feel like he's not necessary for the crew and he's maybe too many characters. I think with Brook, all I really wanted was to see Oda start giving him actual character depth. And Elbaf has made me believe in that. So just the simple fact that Oda's doing more with the Gunko situation, I think that's all I really needed out of Brook. To feel like it's not just like Oda, because you know the talking unicorn and that talking tree or whatever in Thriller Bark that Luffy was like, I want to add you guys to the crew, and it's like, haha, that's funny, but you know, are they really like, is it just some silly idea that you have, Luffy, that you want to have a unicorn and a talking tree on the crew? That's how I feel with Oda and Brook, where I feel like Oda at one point was just like, I want to have a talking perverted musician skeleton that wears a bow tie on the crew. And the editors were like, haha, Oda, is that really someone that you feel is necessary? And he's like, yes. And it's just like, well, now he's there. Does he ever get significant character development or anything, or any growth, or any significant moments, or even any fights, or anything in any arc? No. He's just there for panty jokes and skull jokes. That's really what Brook was for a long period of time. I'm now starting to see that, okay, maybe Oda had more of a vision for him. So I'm more open to Brook as a character. I like Brook. That's always been the difficult thing for me with Brook. I've always liked him as a character. I just also always felt like as a Straw Hat, it's one too many. I feel like the crew hit its just about perfect. I feel like it hit its max ensemble where you could reasonably focus on enough characters and give everybody their due spotlight after Frankie. I felt like Robin was already pushing it. I felt like after Frankie, I was like, that's good. And everyone's got a strong dynamic, yada, yada. But I don't know. Jinbei is necessary to put out fires? Yeah, I don't know. I always loved Brook. I always loved him as an individual character concept. But too many times I'm just like, man, we've got so many fucking Straw Hats, and you'll have like a chapter where every Straw Hat's saying, like, chiming in with all sorts of stuff, and then Brook just says like some random skull joke, and I'm just like, I don't know. Alright, so Hyozo's going to take this just barely. We're going to have to move through the next few characters a lot faster. Naiban Brothers versus Brahm. All right, the Brahm fight looks like it's going to take it. And then finally, my guess is Naib. Oh, Naiban versus Monet. What the hell? Where's Kabaji at? Jinbei would have been better as an ally type character like Marco. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I personally think so, but I don't know. Meek, thanks for the 5. I feel like that because the Any Slobby squad is the most quintessential Straw Hat group in my opinion, and Brook not being introduced by then might be why. That's very possible. Maybe it's subconscious because the Any Slobby, that storyline really was the defining storyline for the Straw Hats as a crew, because it literally was them all having to, like, the entire crew almost falling apart and them all having to come together and really, like, reflect and internalize, like, what does it mean to be part of this crew? What are we going to be? And, like, cementing those bonds forever. And, like, it was the arc that solidified that, like, look, we are a crew where if one of us is taken, we will follow them to the ends of the earth and declare war on the entire world to get them back. And that's all very core identity defying stuff for the crew. And that's not to say that, oh, like Jinbei and Brook wouldn't do the same or whatever. It's just that that was the storyline where that really, really happened, you know? All right, Naibon Brothers versus Kabaji. All right. That is a good point, Meek. Isn't Vivi a Strahd member? Yeah, but I don't intuitively think of Vivi. Like, when I think of all the Strahds, Vivi doesn't immediately come to mind, you know? Like, I refer to the crew as the actual crew that's sailing around, you know? Okay, the Naibon brothers will go down as Zoro's worst fight. All right, so here's what we got. Here's what we got. From top to bottom, we got Mr. One, King, Kaku. Okay. This actually shakes out just about how I would rank these fights. King, Kaku, Ryuma. And then Ohm and Pika. I would actually swap these personally. Ohm, Pika, Hachi, and Lucci. Yeah, I think I got that as... Lucci I'd put lower as a fight. Hyozo. Hyozo, Braum. I would put Braum higher. So I personally would have Braum above the Lucci fight. I would have the Hyozo fight. I have the Monet fight also a lot higher than... I have it above the... I think Braum and Monet I would move up here above Lucci and Hyozo for me. And Kabaji and Naibon brothers. Kabaji, Naibon brothers. I think I have the Lucci fight just about last. The manga version, at least. I think it's truly bad. I actually rate the Kabaji fight and the Naibon brothers fight above it, just because it still felt like there was actually some degree of, like, intrigue to me about how these fights play out. The Lucci fight, I was interested in how it plays out too, but it kind of just felt like... Okay, it's just going to end at, like... It just felt like this is... I don't know. It felt like Oda was... I could feel Oda stalling for Zoro, and it just felt like, okay, the fight's probably supposed to be done probably sometime soon. Teptio, thanks for the 2. Does Final War have any slobby potential for the Strats? I should certainly hope so. I mean, that's the arc that all the Strats should be having the best writing saved for them for the most part, and a lot of the Strats will probably be concluding their dreams then. All right, let's get Nami fights out of the way. So Nami, here we go. How do... I guess I just got to do this again. So I can do a new one? Yeah, let's do a new one. Okay. Clear. Okay, Nami's got a lot fewer fights, luckily. So she's got Miss Doublefinger. She's got Khalifa. She's got... Wait, why am I even doing a pub meeple for this? Is that necessary? Let's just list it out. Miss Doublefinger, Khalifa, Hotori/Kotori. A lot of people forget that one. And then, I guess, do we count? I don't even know if I count the ulti fight, really. I guess that was such a messy fight. Involved Big Mom. I'll put it there. Okay, let's start with the heavy hitters. I don't even know if I should count ulti. Okay, we're doing Khalifa as number 1. Then we got what? We got... I'll compare ulti and Hotori and Kotori. I legitimately think the Hotori-Kotori fight is better Because the ulti fight is the first Nami fight that requires genuinely zero brain power from her. Like, there's no thought. She just... Zeus does it for her. It's automatic. Hotri Kotri is low-key a good Nami fight. She has to think a little bit. It's just short. All right. So we're going to assume Ms. Doublefinger is second. All right, Usopp. With Usopp, we've got... I don't know if I count the... I'm not going to count the Django fight. That's not a real fight. Usopp's got a few. Here we go. So Usopp, he's got Chu. For Zoro, I didn't really count team fights. But for Usopp, I'm going to go ahead and do it just because I think it might be somewhat necessary. Because I think the Mr. 4... Mr. 4 duo, I think that's mainly an Usopp fight. I know Chopper's a huge part of that, but I feel like it was more important for Usopp's character. Mr. 4, then we got Perona. And then we got, I don't even know that one Fishman. Fishman Island Fishman. I don't know the Fishman Island Fishman's name. Fishman Island Fishman. I think that's it. I don't count the Sugar fight. So, I think the big thing for Usopp is like Mr. 4 duo versus Perona. Daruma. I think Mr. 4 versus Perona is like a really tight... Because I think the Perona fight is Usopp at his absolute best. The entire sequence, like, as a fighter, like, as a solo fighter, like, the entire sequence where he, after he puts on the Sogeking mask and just goes to work and he's taking out zombies and, like, the bear zombie and the rhino zombie and then Perona, like, that's him at his peak, just everything clicking. The Mr. 4 duo fight is, like, the strongest, like, character writing for Usopp in a fight. So it's a very hard call for me. It's a very hard call. I think there's no wrong answer here. Luffy? No, it has to be fights where they win. That's the rule. All right, get your votes in here. Get your votes in, because this one's tight. But it looks like we're going to give it to Perona. Perona, Mr. Fordu. I'm going to assume that Chu is next and then Daruma. Because Chu is actually, like, these are... That's the thing about Usopp. These three are three very good fights. These are three very good fights. Like, all three of these. They're great... all three of them are really good character writing fights, which cannot be... The same cannot be said for a lot... Like, so for example, Zoro has a ton of good... Like, ton of fights here, but very few of them actually have strong character writing. That's the thing I like about Usopp. Like, when he gets a fight, when Oda's giving him stuff, there's actually a lot of storytelling to it. Like, I think Usopp's only, like, throwaway fight. Like, Sanji's a good point of comparison, because Sanji almost never... I think the Queen fight is the first Sanji fight that has, like, genuine character writing for him. Sanji fights are usually... Because Sanji actually generally, like, mid or mid-high defeats his opponents. So his fights actually very often aren't great for character writing. Okay, so for Sanji, we got Kurubi. Kurubi is one of my favorite Sanji fights. Kurubi, when I watched the Kurubi fight in the anime as a kid, it was as a child, it was genuinely gut-wrenching. Like, seeing Sanji dragged underwater and seeing him, like, try to get up for air over and over, it made me feel, and, like, each time I'm like, he's almost at the surface, and then Kurubi drags him down, it would make me feel as a child, like, oh my god, like, I could feel it. Like, I was like, He's not getting air. He's not getting like that was one of the most suspenseful viewing experiences of my life. Like relative to its time, the impact that it had on me, I actually felt like, how is this resolvable? Like I couldn't imagine him winning. It was really cool. And actually, when I was a kid, I don't think I even saw the part of the episode where Sanji figures it out. So I think my experience of it as a child was just remembering Sanji like struggling underwater against this dude for a long time. So we got Karubi, then we got the Mr. 2 fight, then we got Jabura, then we got Absalom, Wadatsumi, Queen? Am I missing something? Missing Pearl and Jin. These are fights that they win. Winning fights. They gotta win the fight. Jerry and Wanze. Those are good fights. Wanze in particular, phenomenal fight. I really like the Wanze fight. That's going to be a dark horse for me in this. All right, I think we're good. Let's get into Sanji's. 13 comparisons. All right, that's doable. Wanze and Wadatsumi. Page 1. I could have had page 1 in there. Forget the page 1 fight. We'll rank page 1 after where it would go. He won against Pearl. I think he didn't. The Pearl fight didn't conclude. Jin took out Pearl. Wanze, easy win. Jerry or Absalom? I'm going to go ahead and guess that Absalom wins. Kurubi and Jabura. Did Sanji win against page 1? I think the assumption is that Sanji won against page 1. I think the assumption is Sanji won against page 1. Yeah, Jabura should probably... I think Jabura is Sanji's best fight except for maybe Queen. Maybe Queen's Sanji's best fight. Queen and Mr. 2. I think I like the Queen fight overall better for Sanji because it's the only Sanji fight I can think of that like actually has good dramatic writing for him. The Jabura fight, I think I enjoy because it's kind of, I love Sanji's entrance in that fight is one of my. Sanji's entrance in that fight actually might be my favorite Sanji moment in the series. Maybe Mr. Prince. Mr. Prince probably still stands out. But Sanji's entrance in the Jabura fight is phenomenal. And then after that, I like that it's just straight hands. So it's just like, or feet, whatever. But it's just like cool, fast-paced action afterwards. And I always really like Sanji's fighting style. So seeing it up against CP9, who are also like physical martial artists, was pretty cool. Justin, thanks for the 2. Who do you think is attacking Mauritius right now? I mean, I'm going to go with the simple answer, which is Dragon. And knowing Oda, it's going to be a twist and it's not Dragon. It's going to be something more out of left field. But, yeah, I'm going with the simple answer, which I'm guessing is Dragon. Absalom or Wanze? Yeah, the Hunter line is probably my favorite Sanji line in the story. I wish he could still get cool, like, one-liners like that. Like, he used to get one, like, pretty frequently, like, Mr. Prince, Thanks for giving me a light. I'm the hunter. I don't think he has shit like that post time skip. I think he was the king of one-liners in One Piece at one point. Absalom or Wadatsumi? Yeah, Sanji had another line at the end of the Jabura fight about uh, spice and the devil. I guess I made it too spicy. Love is stronger than light goes hard. Yeah, I could see that one. Yeah, I agree. The Absalom fight, the Wadatsumi fight, I didn't like because Sanji was. I would rather Sanji have gotten his own opponent rather than split with Jinbei. We got some Jerry fans in here. I still remember from the anime like boxing 1-2 1-2. I thought that was funny. Okay, we got Jerry here. Queen and Jabura. This is, I think, this is our heavyweight champion, right? Yeah, get your votes in because this one's an important one. All right. I'm going to give it 10 seconds. This is really tight. All right, get your votes in. We got 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I guess we're going with Jabura. I think the I think the Jabura fight's a cooler fight. I think Sanji gets some of his best writing in the Queen fight. The Queen fight is very choppy the way I remember it, though. The Jabura fight has some excellent choreography. I think I would lean towards the Jabura fight being my favorite fight as well. The Queen fight feels a little bit clunky. Queen versus Kurubi. I think the debut of Diablo Jambe was also really cool. Queen, Mr. Two versus Kurubi. I think Kurubi, or sorry, Mr. Two is obviously better in. Okay, do Mr. Two. I'm just gonna make that assumption. Jabura versus Wanze. I think that's obvious. Wanze versus Queen. I think that's obvious. Wanze versus Mr. Two. We could do this one, although I think Mr. Two will obviously win. It was pretty. The Jaguar fight was more emotional than the Queen one. It was pretty tough to see Sanji beat up his crewmate's brother. That was funny. Okay, Mr. Two takes this. Wanza versus Karubi. Damn, people sleeping on the Karubi fight. The Karubi fight was good. Ah. All right, get your votes in. Get your votes in. I'll give it 10 seconds. I'll give it 5 seconds. All right. All right. So we got Jabura, then Queen, then Mr. Two. Hold on, hold on. Who's below Jerry? Watatsumi's below Jerry? Did we vote Watatsumi? Did we vote Jerry below Watatsumi? I would keep this ranking for myself. I think between the Jabura and Queen fight, I do think I prefer the Jabura fight just because I remember the action was really smooth and really cool for the Jabura fight. Both in the manga and in the anime. The Queen fight was a lot of starts and stops. Writing was very good for the Queen fight. It's tricky. I think I still probably prefer the Jabura fight. Maybe slightly. But it's very close. It's very close. And the Diablo Jambe debut, I think the Jabura fight is phenomenal. Ifrit Jambe debut is cool too. I think these two are clearly the two best for me. Yeah, then I think there's a solid drop, and then it's Mr. Two. Like, the Mr. Two fight is fine. Like, it's solid. It's Sanji's first real serious fight against an opponent of his caliber. Karubi is... I think this is a good fight. Wanze is obviously very unique and special for Sanji because of the cooking stuff. Absalom, I was very disappointed, I remember, when the manga got to the Absalom fight, because, like, you know, I'm excited for the Strahd matchup. Zoro's fighting the swordsman and whatever. Sanji's fighting Absalom, the leader of the general zombies. Sanji just walks over him. Doesn't even use Diablo Jambe. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, only thing I would change, I'd move Watatsumi above Jerry. I think the Watatsumi fight is maybe above Jerry. All right, Chopper. Chopper actually has a few good options right here. Chopper's actually got some stuff for him. So let's clear this. And then we got Kuro Marimo, Mr. Four Duo, Gedatsu, Kumadori, and then that's it. Why has Chopper not been given a real fight post time skip? Yeah, it's just 4 options, right? Oh, I guess is it Dosun? Yeah. That's it. We don't need 7 comparisons. That's silly. I think let's just start with the top options. Kumadori, Kuromarimo, Mr. Four Duo, and Gedatsu. Yeah, Chopper is obviously Kumadori, but why not? Mr. Four Duo, and then what's the last one? Kuromarimo? I guess we'll put that in. Yeah, I think Kumadori is just the easy pick here. So Kumadori, we got number 1. And then it looks like Gadatsu and the Mr. 4 duo is the next pick. The Mr. 4 duo is a phenomenal fight, but I think it's more phenomenal for Usopp than it is for Chopper. Yeah, get your votes in, everybody. Get your votes in. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. All right. Looks like it's getting close, so I'll give it 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Get your votes in. Chopper beats someone with Kaido level durability. That's true. Oh, the votes are tight now. All right, I'll give it a little bit more than that. Partly because I'm biased, because I do think the Gadatsu fight is, I think as a Chopper fight, the Gadatsu fight is a better fight. Sugar didn't count as a fight for Usopp. I mean, I don't think they ever fought. Like, he sniped her once, but beyond that, they didn't really interact. I don't think sniping is a fight, you know? Okay, this is really tight. All right, I'll get the votes to 50. Get the votes to 50. Once we have 50 votes in, I'll make the call. So if you have not voted, really think on it. Get your vote in. Because right now it's dead even. I'll be the tiebreak if needed. But if you have not voted yet and you're watching the stream, get your vote in. Yeah, Chopper pre-time skip was a phenomenal character. Like, these are some great moments for him. Oh my god. How is it still so close? Get a couple more votes in, y'all. All right. I'm going to stop it here. We're at 50-something votes. We're giving it to Gadatsu. Just about. Gadatsu, then Mr. 4 duo. And then, I don't know, Kuromarimo or Dosan. And then after Chopper, we're kind of at slim pickings, right? I'm just going to go ahead and put Black Maria down for this, and then Yami. Frankie, we've got let's just start going down the. No, Frankie has enough that we could warrant using this, right? Brooke has none. So Brooke actually has. Well, no, Brooke has one. What is it? Zio, the guy that he beats at Fishman Island, and then Jinbei has. Jinbei's is weird because it's like he has lots of skirmishes in Impel Down. Full on fights, it's just who's who, right? Who's who, right? So these ones are simple. Zio and who's who. So Frankie's the last one. We'll do a little pub meeple for Frankie. Because Frankie's actually got several. He's got Nero. He's got Fukuro. He's got Ikaros or Ikalgos? Ikalgos? This post-time skip. Senior Paint. Oh no, Buffalo and Baby 5. Frankie Loki has a lot of fights for no reason. Why does he have like almost the same number of fights as like Sanji? What the hell? Buffalo Baby 5, then Senior Pink, then Sasaki. The fuck? Why does Frankie have so many fights? Frukuro and Ukalgos. I assume that's fine. Nero or Buffalo and Baby 5? Justin! Thanks for the 2. The final poneglyph location is still unknown. Yeah, that's the biggest thing about this arc, man. I feel like we've all forgotten. Not all forgotten, but no one's really focusing as much on the man marked by flames at the moment. I feel like Oda's just going to pull out a big surprise as to who it is. Like, when we're least suspecting it. Oda's really good at doing that. When you've completely forgotten about something, bringing a mystery back. This one's tight. To me, this one has an easy answer. The Nero fight is actually really good. The Nero fight is like our first complete introduction to CP9's abilities. Even though Nero can't use everything, it's our first time dealing with like back at Water 7 when they fought CP9, it was like a rushed, quick, not rushed, but it was like a fast presentation of their abilities. Nero versus Frankie was cool. It was like a really good back and forth. It was funny. It had surprises. Yada yada. Buffalo Baby 5 is like maybe I fucking spelled Buffalo wrong. One of the most forgettable fights in One Piece. I genuinely almost forgot that happened. I guess Nero's also forgettable, but it's a pleasant surprise when you're watching Water 7. Any slobby. Fukuro and Senior Pink. Robin fought Gladius? That's not really a fight. If we're including stuff like that, then we have to include like a million things for Zoro and like a million things for Sanji and stuff. I'm talking about like full extended 1v1. Full extended 1v1. In some characters' cases, we can count team battles, so like 2v2 or something like that. I forgot Chopper versus Hogback. And I think that counts as a fight for Robin as well. So we can do that ranking in a second. Robin versus Cavendish. Again, full extended 1v1s. Not just a Straw Hat like immediately winning something. Spiros Chatz's 7128. Thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 33 months. Yo, Morge, haven't caught the stream in a while due to university. Hope you're doing well, man. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for the long time support. And yeah, focus on the studies. Although, make sure you enjoy yourself at university also. But yeah. It's always funny to me. America, I think, is the only country that calls it college. Every other country calls it university or uni. Yeah, the Fukuro fight is way better than the Senior Pink fight. The Senior Pink fight is genuinely terrible. It is an awful fight. The Senior Pink backstory is great, but it has nothing to do with Frankie because Frankie doesn't even know it. Like, I don't know. To me it's a phenomenal backstory placed into a terrible fight. But I mean, you guys voted how you want to vote it. That's up to y'all. All right, we're gonna go with Fukuro. Senior Pink versus Akalgos. I think people are just gonna vote Senior Pink for sure, right? Nero versus Sasaki. I figure people would vote Sasaki. I don't know. I don't know how people feel about the Sasaki fight. Senior Pink fight is carried by backstory, and it's fine if a fight is carried by backstory because some fights like have a really good backstory in them or whatever, but this wasn't even Frankie's backstory. This is just the villain's backstory, right? So it's almost like as a Frankie fight, it's terrible. I guess is what I'm saying. It's interesting because Frankie has such a varied kit. He has one of the most varied kits among the Straw Hats in terms of his abilities. The Senior Pink fight is the only one where he actively refused to use his kit at all and just used fists and suplexes. People got narrow. Damn, the Sasaki fight is not going to rank well, is what it looks like. I'm on board. I think the Sasaki fight is genuinely a disgrace. Sasaki or Buffalo Baby 5? Narrow's just more creative. The Sasaki fight was just a rush job, in my opinion. But I do think it's better than Buffalo Baby 5, which is a fight that could be removed from the arc and like no one I think would be saving some space. Okay, looks like we're going with Sasaki for this. And then finally, Narrow Fukuro. I think that's obviously Fukuro. Narrow Senior Pink. I imagine people are going to vote Senior Pink, but I will give it the poll regardless just to see. Do due diligence. Robin fought Hammond in Fishman Island. Okay, so for Chopper we got Hogback. For Robin we got Hogback, and I guess Hammond. Yeah, we'll include Hammond. It might be like surprising, like why am I counting Hammond but not Cavendish? That like Hammond at least is a full fight for Robin that has a start and concludes and whatever. I don't know. I'll just go ahead and put Hammond in last. Which fight was better? All right. Yeah, get your votes in. Get your votes in. This is tight. Get your votes in. We'll call it at 50 votes. Get your votes in. This is important. Oh my God. This is so tight. All right, we're going to call it in 5 seconds. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Senior Pink is going to edge this. Narrow versus Akalgos. I'm just going to assume Narrow. I haven't given Akalgos a fair shot in any of these polls. I've actually just always assumed that it will just lose, so I don't do the poll. But let's just do it. I think I've just given it an auto loss for every single one, and at a certain point I'm like, wait, is this what if it would actually be competitive in one of these? All right, never mind. I was right. I shouldn't even have bothered. All right, so Narrow takes that. Call goes Sasaki. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sasaki wins this, right? Hello? Isn't his name Ikaros? I'm mixing it up with a Hunter x Hunter character. Sorry, guys. His name is Ikaros. His name is Ikaros. My bad. My bad. I am mixing it up with a Hunter x Hunter character. Maybe that's why it's not winning any of these. All right, this should be our last one. Ikaros or Buffalo. My bad. My bad. It's embarrassing back to New Fishman Pirates, so forgettable. Yeah. I mean, Oda gave them the most fodder villains to start off the the post time skip. Okay, Buffalo Baby 5. All right. All right. So we got Fukuro. All right. And then with Robin, I guess we'll add in Hammond. And so, last question, Chopper, where does the Hogback fight rank? Start from the bottom. Oh, whoops. My bad. I did that wrong. My bad. Hold on. We already did that. Chopper versus Hogback. Tip TOS more, did you see my Pirate King submission email? I can almost guarantee yes. Our assistant compiles them at the end, but let me see. Tip TO. Yeah, I see an email for February Pirate King podcast submission. Okay, so Chopper versus Hogback is better than Chopper versus Dosen. Okay. Next up. All right, let's get the votes in. Damn, people like Chopper versus Hogback that much? I straight up, no one even reminded me that this happened. I didn't know you guys were such a fan. All right. Yami. Oh my god, the priest is Yama. Where's my mind right now? All right. Okay. Rounding it out. Chopper versus Mr. 4 duo. Chopper versus Hogback. All right. The Mr. 4 duo wins. Okay. I prefer Chopper I would put Hogback below Kuromarimo just because I think the Kuromarimo fight is actually pretty cool with Chopper debuting all of his transformations. Let me ask on Robin's end. Dimian Wright asks Morge, do you think these fights will be quick in Elbaf? Okay, so remember I put out that video that was like, I think Elbaf will end in 30 chapters? Currently, with the fight spread the way it is, like, that's actually very doable, if not in like 20 chapters. Because, like, there's only so many opponents, right? Like, so remove Emu for the moment. So then there's just Killingham, Sommers, and then Dami versus Dorian Brogy. If each fight takes even like 3 chapters, everything wraps in like 10-ish chapters, even if you add in some filler or whatever. Because Dorian Brogy, that's like combined, they're a duo. So then that just leaves Emu and Gunko. Do I think the fights themselves will be short? I think they will be comparable to the length of Wano fights, which is to say generally not very long. Some of them can go a little bit like more than a couple chapters if you stack it together, like 2-3 chapters. But I feel like each fight, you know what? I feel like actually each fight, because they're all supposed to be fairly difficult fights. So I feel like each fight should take, because none of the, like if Sanji is supposed to defeat Somers, that requires a power up, right? So that's gonna be more than one chapter, you know, because it would be pretty fast if Sanji starts fighting Somers and then by the end of the chapter he unlocks Advanced Conqueror Saki. So like at least 2-3 chapters per fight, at least I think. And killing him is like a whole problem to deal with, like so much to get through to defeat him. And then Dorian Brogy, Dami Reversied are just like absolute monsters, right? So I think it will be. I feel like we're not gonna, like, Oda likes to cut around a lot, so it's gonna be hard to say like, oh, we'll just get 2 to 3 chapters straight of some of these fights. But I think if you added it together, like the cumulative total of how much time will be spent on each fight, I think each fight in accumulation will be like somewhere in the 2 chapter range, maybe 3 chapter range total. That's what One Piece fights were like back in the day. So that's what my hope is. And then the whole Imu Gunko situation, that's like the real question mark. Like, how will that be resolved, right? And do we get a Dami Reversied Loki or something like that? Do we get a Dami Reversied challenge in between? Who knows? All right, so Robin versus Yama, and then we'll just move Hamon down. All right. So these are now we finally have a good roster. The roster is complete. So the best fights in the best fights for these characters, basically, we got Mr. 1 for Zoro, Khalifa for Nami, Usopp Perona. I think these are all very respectable so far. I would agree with a lot of these. Sanji Jabura, Chopper Kumadori, yes, definitely. Robin Black Maria, for sure. Frankie Fukuro, Brook, Zio by default, Jinbei, Who's Who by default, basically. I think strong honorable mentions. I think King could have won here. I think the Mr. 4 duo was very close to winning here for Usopp. Queen was very close to winning for Sanji. I think that's basically. I think Senior Pink was very close to winning for Frankie. And yeah, I think if I were to pick my favorite for each stride, I would agree. I'd pick Mr. 1 for Zoro, Khalifa for Nami. I think I would do Perona for Usopp, even though I love the writing for the Mr. 4 duo. I just love when Usopp gets on a roll at the end of this battle. I think Jabura edges it for me with Queen, just because I think the actual action of this fight is phenomenal. And the Diablo Janbei moment beats Ifrit Janbei moment for me for a little bit. Kumadori, no competition. But the Gadatsu fight for Chopper is actually a very good fight. It's like a very well-written storyline for Chopper. Skypia's low-key really good for Chopper. So this is great. The Gadatsu fight's actually a great fight, writing-wise. Kumadori's just hard to top. Monster point. Black Maria, obviously great fight for Robin, and her only truly good fight. Fukuro is a solid, good fight in the story. It's fun. It's got a lot going on. But I think it just speaks a lot that it's Frankie's best fight, because it's not a great fight. Like, I think all these other characters have had some great fights. Like, Zoro, Mr. 1, Khalifa is at least a very good fight. Very, very good fight. Very good fight. Great. I think Fukuro is a good fight. Frankie's gotten a lot of fights, but I don't think any of them are, like, great, even very good. And then Brook and Jinbei are just drowning over here. So I think Frankie could use a great fight, personally. Brook and Jinbei just need more in general. Chopper needs something post-time skip, because he just deserves it. He was such a... Like, look at this. This is like a roster of, like, genuinely very good fights. Like, these are 3 very good fights pre-time skip. And the Hogback fight is, like, emotionally important for the character as well. And the Kuromarimo is a great debut fight. It's actually one of the best Straw Hat debut fights that we've ever had. Maybe the best debut fight for a Straw Hat? The Kuromarimo fight's fun. Like, this is all gold. Like, Chopper doesn't have that many fights pre-time skip, but it's never bad when he gets fights pre-time skip. Yeah. It's interesting stuff. All right, everybody. Yeah, we are going to call it here. This did go a little bit long. That's what always happens when I do a Pub Meeple stream. It always ends up going really long. But yeah, I hope you guys had fun, and I'm really looking forward to the Elbaf fight matchups, and I wonder where all of their fights are gonna land in the rankings that we